Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Side Hustle Ideas. I am Bill, the company's expert. Thank you for joining me today. In fact, thanks to my YouTube channel members. You guys are awesome. My Patreons, thank you for the support. And my super thanks donors and everybody who is watching this, because you are awesome. You are here to do some self-improvement, and that's what we're here to talk about. We're taking those first steps into the world of business and hopefully inspiring and giving people the knowledge with which to be able to start their own side hustle. That's the whole point of this. I'm passionate about entrepreneurship. I have been for many years, and I'm here to encourage you if you are also passionate or curious about stepping into the world of business, maybe as a side hustle, doing something on the side where you don't take huge risks, you don't quit your day job, but you still try and get something going on the side. I'm here to help you with that, and this is the live stream series where we talk about that stuff. So today, the title of this episode is called How to Turn Your Creative Passion into a Money-Making Business. This is episode 59 of this series. We've done 59 of these so far. That's amazing. But first, we're going to briefly talk about one other thing, and that's how money is a problem in entrepreneurship and how to solve it. Okay? We're going to solve it once and for all, right here, live. I'm going to do this before a paying audience, and then we're going to take questions. Okay? So this is a interactive live stream. You should see a chat box somewhere near me. Get in the chat. Let me know what you're struggling with, what you're wondering about, and I will do my best to help you out. But we are going to move into the sort of dual topics of today, and they both really are about the same thing. Okay, how to turn your creative passion into a money-making business. When we talk about money, we're really talking about that too. Okay, because obviously money is one aspect of starting a business, and in technical terms, we're talking about initial capital outlay. That's the money you need to get the business started. Okay, there's a lot of misinformation floating around, and not necessarily misinformation, but people either taking valid ideas that are old or valid ideas that apply to a very specific situation and sort of repeating them publicly as if they applied to every situation and as if it's the only way of doing things and as if it's, going to automatically apply to whatever you're doing. And I've heard so much misinformation about this. I've heard you need tons of cash to start a business. You've got to spend money first and get everything going first, and then you learn how to make money. You learn how to make a profit later and get the customers later. I've heard all kinds of stuff. These are not necessarily false, but they are certainly outdated depending on what you're trying to do. So that's why I wanted to set this straight. Let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to talk about specifically is how money is a problem in entrepreneurship and how to solve it. So here we go. First of all, I want to mention, though, I've got to do this. If you want to learn business, take that course, the $100 MBA. That will teach you business. That's the best bang for the buck around. You get all the same information that you do when you take a brick and mortar traditional MBA, except that you get it for $100. That's what, 1% or something like that, a couple percent worth of the actual price of taking it out of university. The reason is because you are reading the same textbooks. You're getting it all from textbooks, which is the best source, not some BS coffee table book that some accountant has written, passing off their opinions as if it's the foundation of all business. Okay, so check that out if you're interested in learning it. We're going to be talking about some of this stuff today, namely business principles and how everything works, because knowledge is the key. Okay, so how money is a problem in entrepreneurship and how to solve it. Here's something that I've seen many times personally, and I know happens to a lot of people. And that is that the founder of a startup or a small business, they spend all their time in the initial phases of the business trying to raise money. That's all they do. They're essentially being a treasurer. Okay, they're trying to get investment capital. They're trying to get, debt financing. They're trying to investigate different sources, trying to connect with potential angel investors, trying to connect with financial services institutions. They're putting together pitch decks. They're trying to pitch to supposed investors, and all this kind of stuff. And that occupies 100% of the time that they spend on their business. And the tragedy, of course, is that because they're doing that, number one, they're not actually working on their business. Okay, if you want to start up a business that will sell a product and it will sell it to certain customers, like a certain market, but you're spending all your time trying to get investors on board or to, get a loan from somewhere or, investigating that stuff, you're not actually working on the fundamental business problem, which is what can I do that will generate profit, right? And who are my customers and how do I reach them and how do I convince them to buy and how do I learn about them? What are they looking for? What should I be doing, right? That will give people what they want and therefore make them buy. They're not tackling any of those problems because they're spending all their time worrying about where do I get money. So they haven't really started yet. And, this has, back in the day, this was encouraged by, I forget what you call it, but that wave of startups around 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago, that led to the .com bubble. A lot of things that people were doing wrong then, that sort of stuck in everybody's mind. And as a result, people sort of not really knowing anything about business, but being curious about getting into business, they kind of have those ideas in mind. That leaps to mind when you think, what do I do when I start a business? And this is a real tragedy because a lot of it is wrong. And a lot of it was shown to be wrong over 20 years ago when the .com bubble burst with spectacular and morbidly entertaining consequences. Okay? That's how they did it back then. It was this idea of bulk up, get just hire hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people and get big. And even if you haven't made a cent of profit yet, that doesn't matter because the goal is to just get big and you have first mover advantage and all this kind of stuff. And it was just complete crap. It didn't work. Unfortunately, some of the ideas from that have stuck in the public consciousness. You do not need a ton of money to start a business. You need money to eat. Okay, so as long as you got your food and your rent or what your living expenses covered, you can start a business and you can start it successfully. So side hustles are great because if you've got a day job, presumably it's paying for you to stay alive. Okay, so the only thing you're really contributing to your side hustle is time, right? Which is a more precious commodity when you have a day job, but you have it, right? So this sort of frames what we're going to do here, okay? The problem is the founder spends their whole time getting financing, okay? Being a treasurer. The big problem, like I said, that comes out of this is that they're not actually spending any time building their business. They're not dealing with customers, they're not dealing with operations, they're just, they're dealing with finance all the time. And that's not the business. No matter what an accountant would have you believe or a finance manager would have you believe, just accounting and financing is not the business. Okay? And I don't care how much initial capital outlay you have. You could have several $1 million to start a business. But if you have no idea of how to make money with it, you're going to fail. It's only a matter of time before you fail. On the other hand, if you start with zero, okay, nobody gives you an initial investment, you have no real money to pump into this, but you have something of value that you know how to make, that once you make it, people will say, I want that, and I'll pay for it, right? If you have that, you're going to succeed in some measure. It's guaranteed. Okay? Now, the other aspect of the whole money thing, okay, where the owner or the founder spends all their time being a treasurer and just trying to find financing. The problem of that, of course, is that if you do get financing, presumably it's because you feel you need it to start your business, whatever your business model is. Okay, maybe you chose perhaps the wrong thing to do because it shouldn't cost you an arm and a leg to start up if you're doing a side hustle or small business. The problem, of course, is that then the pressure is really on to pay it back. Okay, now you're really under the gun. Okay, now if you have an investor of some kind and you've gone that route, you will have pressure. Okay, you have to produce results now. If you don't have an investor, you've just essentially taken a loan in some way, shape, or form. You also have that pressure because you got to pay back the money, right? And the clock is ticking. So this is a double problem. Not only does this stuff take you away from actually working on the business, but now, you can't sort of just do it at your own pace and take time to learn things. It's like, no, you have to get instant success, and failure in any step along the way is now a huge problem for you. If you were doing this at your own pace, you didn't have, a lot of money in it that you had to pay back, you could do it at a more leisurely pace. You could take the trouble to learn about the customers and get to know, how they think and what they're looking for and what the market looks like and what the industry looks like and all this kind of stuff. See what else is out there, see what other people are doing and how it's working for them. Maybe get ideas, maybe take the time to sort of plan what you want to do, then test it, then validate it, right? You might have the time to do all that. But if you've got investment or you've got debt financing, now you may not have time to indulge in anything other than going right for the jugular, right? I got to put something out and I need to sell it and it has to produce results or I'm dead, right? That's the problem. It's a dual problem. Okay. Now I remember back in the day, this was years ago, and I was an advisor to many startups. I would work with startup founders one-on-one that were doing tech startups and those innovative type things, or I'd work with business owners that, were more sort of small business, more traditional type business, less innovation, people in the construction industry and stuff like this. And, in both cases, I saw this a lot. And usually by people who didn't know what they're doing. It was their kind of first business or whatever. And they went down this path and they ran into these two problems every single time. I don't recall anyone not running into these problems. This is because you generally don't get experienced people doing this. They don't jump into something they don't know how to do and then they take out a bunch of money to do it. It just doesn't work like that. One way or another, they don't do that, right? So that's the deal. So you've got this dual problem. And like I said, if you have an investor, then the pressure is still on because you have to run everything by your partner. They have to approve everything. They're putting a lot of pressure on you if they're more of the investor kind of type. So you can't escape it. So I think I've spent enough time setting up this problem. Let's talk about how to solve it. I see there are 30 people here. You guys are awesome. Hopefully you're getting something out of this. If you have any comments as we go, say something in the chat. I set up the chat so I can see it. So it's there for you. Okay, so there's kind of three parts to how you can solve this. First, you clear your throat. Okay, then you think about choosing the right idea. Okay, now let's get into specifics here. Okay, now some ideas are inappropriate for a side hustle or a small business because they're, as a business problem, they're just too big. Okay, big business exists for a reason. It's to solve big problems. Small business exists for a reason. That's to solve small problems, right? Things that one or two people can tackle and solve and do successfully, right? So not all business ideas are appropriate if you're just wanting this to be a side hustle or a small business that, you're doing with maybe yourself and a couple other people potentially. Okay. Now, that being said, if you want to do something big, maybe it's too big for you to start off doing that, but you could get there with a series of baby steps, right? Maybe the first 1 or 2 steps are things that one person easily could do. Okay. Now, the classic example that I give to illustrate this is, let's say you want to start, I don't know, a restaurant. Okay. Like maybe that's your passion. We'll use that as an example. Okay. Now, going from, you working a day job somewhere and not having a business to you owning a big family restaurant, that's kind of a huge jump, right? It's a huge jump in many ways. Now, if you think of the amount of initial capital outlay you would need for that, you need a lot of money to get that off the ground, right? But more than that, there's a lot to running your own restaurant. And unless you learn it all in an extremely short amount of time, you're going to run that restaurant into the ground, right? So you've got a lot to learn in terms of what food should I sell and how should I do it and where should I, market myself and, what should my prices be? And once you've got that solved, then you've got to think about operations. How do I produce this food and not, have the costs spiral out of control so I can never make a profit, and all this kind of stuff. There's so many decisions and there's so much to learn there all in one shot that it's probably going to be too much for one person to do, certainly as a side hustle, but even if you quit your job and even if you had industry experience, it would still be a major challenge to do, right? So what I'm saying is that what you can do is you can break that problem down into several little steps, okay? The first challenge may be the food, right? Never mind about what your restaurant's going to look like and, how you're going to market yourself. What food are you going to sell? And do you know how to make food that you could make for relatively cheap so it could be a profitable thing, but it's also really good? Have you solved that problem? Well, maybe what you could do is you could isolate that in one step. You could say, okay, I want to eventually own a restaurant. However, what I'm going to do by myself is I'm going to offer food for delivery. So I don't need a storefront. I don't need a physical location, or at least not nearly on the scale that you would. And I'm going to do it myself. So it allows me to lower my costs, lower my requirements. It's a lower barrier to entry. And I'm going to get the food delivered. Okay, maybe I'll use a outside contracting service to do the delivery for me, right? all I have to do is set up some kind of ordering system and find a way of making the food. And then, some kind of promotion thing so people are aware of it. Okay, maybe word of mouth, maybe, I don't know, flyers, maybe, whatever. Ads, something like that. I'm limiting the scope of the business challenge here. So it's coming down to the level where one person could do this. It's within your means, within your capabilities, within your time. Okay? So, and you use that step to validate, I want to create the right product. I want food that once people order it, they love it and they keep coming back. That's my goal. And I'm just going to work on that, right? I'm not going to try and create a restaurant. I'm just going to focus on the product, okay? Or at least the food part of the product. Okay, so what I'm saying is that in order to solve the money problem, you have to adjust or validate what you're trying to do. And some types of business require tons of initial capital to set up. Others require zero. If you wanted to be a HR company, you wanted to do recruitment for businesses or something, I don't know. What does that take to set up? You need a computer, a phone, and a desk. That's it. The rest is you working the computer, phone, and desk, right? So, that's a very easy business to set up in terms of initial capital outlay. If you have those items already, it costs you practically zero, right? So you have to choose the right idea. Okay, this is the first step in solving the money problem. Okay, if you have a very ambitious idea, that might be okay, but break it down into steps, into constituent steps that you can do one after another and build. And you only move to the second step once the first step has been profitable and you understand how to do it. Okay, that's usually how you do these things. Okay, the second thing you can do to solve the money problem is to validate your idea first. Now, what does validation mean? That means you test something and you make sure that you get the right result. Now, in terms of business ideas, okay, what you're really testing for most of the time is to see if you can, you're basically testing the marketing component. You're seeing if you can, if the customers for this product or service do exist, okay, you're seeing if you can reach them. You're seeing if you can convince them to do business with you, right? That's what you're basically validating. That's what the testing is, okay? So a lot of times, like I've always advocated for, is you don't necessarily need to have developed the product or the offering that you're selling. You just have to send out a marketing message in some way, shape, or form. And you're testing the marketing message. Okay, so if you theorize that, if I put this out there, everyone will see it and everyone will come and buy something, right? Well, let's validate that. Put it out there. Say you have this to offer, or you could have it to offer, but they have to pay up front, right? Just like people do at a store. You want this product? Okay, you pay, and then I'll let you leave the store with it, right? That's kind of how that works. How do you order something from Amazon? You pay, and then they'll send it to you, right? So it's basically that idea, okay? Now, if enough people order it and give you their money, yeah, you'll produce it and send it to them, right? But if not enough people do it, then you don't take anyone's money. You return the money and say, I'm sorry, we can't produce this, or that I don't know the terminology. That happens all the time, right? I'm sorry, we're out of stock, right? We've returned your cash. So that's basically validating it. Okay, so before you've spent any money developing a product or developing a service, you can get a lot of assurances that if you do proceed down this path, the money will roll in. Okay, and unless you get those assurances, you don't proceed. That's what validation is. So the idea is that you validate your idea before you proceed with it. Okay, and that goes a long way to solving the money problem. The only time you will need money then is if you're pretty much assured that if you produce this thing, you will sell it for the amount of money that you're expecting, and there is a market for it, and you can reach the market, and you've convinced people to do business with you. Okay, so validate your idea first. That's the second thing. And the third and final thing I'll say about this for solving the problem of money as an entrepreneur, okay, is a lot of people, how can I put this? They don't understand what entrepreneurship really is, okay? They think you're on a journey to go from not making a profit to making a profit, and it's all about the money. That's not what it's about. It's actually a journey to learn about your customers, to learn about the market. Customers that could buy your stuff. Where are they? How many of them are there? How do they think? Like if you could get inside the head of every person on earth and you knew exactly how everyone thought, what they're aware of, what their opinions are, what their attitudes are, this wouldn't be a challenge. You'd be a billionaire in a couple of days, right? Because you know exactly what everybody would go for, what they would respond to. You know exactly how much money they have to spend. You know exactly what their attitudes are to different products or services and what they're receptive to and what they're not. And you know where they are and you know how to reach them, right? If you knew all of that, this wouldn't be any kind of challenge. The reason business is a challenge is because you don't know that stuff in the beginning, right? It's a journey to learn it. And the more you get answers to those questions, the more successful you are. So it's a journey to get knowledge. That's what it is. How much money does it cost you to get knowledge? Zero. You can start learning immediately. Okay? Now, if you're an introvert and you like to do things remotely, that's fine. If you're an extrovert, you like to do things in person, face to face, that's fine. Depending on what you're trying to do, both of those could be incredible skills, right? The more you learn about your market, your potential customers, the more successful you'll be. It's just that simple. So instead of worrying about money in the beginning, learn all you can about your potential customers. Okay, where are they? How many of them there are? How they think? Where they're looking? What they're paying attention to? How much money they have to spend? What they consider reasonable and what they don't? Right? What they want? What they need? The more you learn about that, the more money will not be a problem. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. I could go deeper into this, but that's good for this. We're talking about how money is a problem in entrepreneurship and how to solve it. People often put the cart before the horse and they worry about getting a bunch of initial financing. You don't need that, especially if you're doing a side hustle. Presumably, your bills are hopefully mostly paid for, or if not all paid for. All you need is time and knowledge. That's all you need. Okay. So hopefully that made sense. I see Crazy Matsuki is in the chat. Says, this is my current dilemma, sir. Sir Bill. Sir Bill. I answer to Sir Bill or Sir Galahad. The need for financing. Currently thinking if an angel investor can solve this or a loan. My co-focuses on acquiring customers and me managing team. Oh, my company. My company focuses on acquiring customers and me managing team. Okay, I don't fully understand that sentence, but that's fine. Yeah, well, that's what we've been talking about. So hopefully what I said helps you in some way. Okay, this is the thing. People think that the answer lies in having a lot of money. Equally, we are told by entrepreneurship programs and the government and, other business educators that, it's all about getting financing. What I find is kind of a little bit disgusting is that we hear this a lot from financial services companies, and it's just marketing speak. They're just trying to sell you a loan when it may not be in your best interest to take the loan. And the other thing that makes it disgusting is because they require that you sign a personal guarantee. So even if your business fails, right? Even if you were to incorporate, your company as its own entity, in order to get the financing, they still make you sign a personal guarantee, which says that you will pay back the money. So it absolves them from any risk, right? Because they don't need to believe in your idea. They don't need to know what your idea is. They just sort of sell you a loan, and then you got to pay it back one way or another. They take no risk. They don't believe in you. They don't need to believe in you. Or what's worse is they'll say they believe in you when they really don't and they don't care, right? And then they'll give you a loan. And it's very underhanded. And I've seen some entities do this, and I find it very annoying. And it's tragic because they're preying on the ignorance of some would-be enthusiastic entrepreneur types. Okay, so this is the thing. You don't need money to validate an idea. You don't. People think that they can substitute the work for just give me cash, and that will solve all my problems. If I get cash, I will instantly know, where my customers are and how to reach them. I will instantly know what to produce that they will find irresistible and they'll want to pay for. If I have cash, then I'll instantly just know how to produce a product that I can sell at a price that will allow me to make a profit because the costs are lower than my revenue. They think this, and it's all crap, okay, to put it mildly. You like it when I stay on one camera angle for like half an hour? It makes it even more engaging. But does that make sense? Like, have you guys had similar experiences? I see there's 33 people here. You guys are awesome for being here, by the way. Hopefully you're getting something out of this. And as I say, if you want to learn business, take that course, that one right there, $100 MBA. There's a link in the description. If you want to learn business, that'll teach you everything you need to know certainly to start a company and lead it to success. But there's no getting around some of this legwork. Whatever business you want to be in, you've got to connect with your customers. You've got to find out where these people are. Okay. We have the internet as a tool, incredible resource, absolutely incredible resource. It allows you to do this way more efficiently, way quicker, way cheaper than ever before. If you know what you're doing and you have a smartphone, you can reach millions of people with just a click. You know, it's incredible. But just knowing what to do, that's still where you got to put the time in, right? And there's no shortcuts. You just got to know. You got to know after spending a while trying things and seeing what the results are. And a lot of those things are going to fail, but you learn each time, right? Okay, let's move on to the main topic of this live stream, finally, which is how to turn your creative passion into a money-making business. Okay, here we go. Hopefully you're going to come with me on this. Okay, so for those who don't know, is my camera too bright? Let's just take care of that very quickly. The brightness goes up and then I look like an angel. And although that's very flattering, we're going to take care of that very briefly. Here we go. See, I do everything manually, right? Because I'm using absolutely ancient technology. But that's okay. Here we go. Okay, for those of you who don't know, business is basically the study of how to make money. That's what it is. It's not about wearing a suit and having an office. It's not about bossing people around. It's about how to make money. And everything you learn in business that enables you to be good at business has that as its direct or indirect goal. Okay, everything serves that goal, right? So if you learn accounting or you learn business ethics, like whatever it is that you're learning within the world of business, quality control, everything goes to the overarching goal of how to make money. That's what business is. So if you want to learn how to make money, then it makes sense to learn business because that's what it is. It's the scientific study of how to do that. And a lot of it is science, but a little bit of it is art because it's like unprovable ideas. You could say something that, you know, if you want to do this, and it can be right most of the time, but how do you prove that scientifically? You may be able to with data, but it will take time, right? So there's a little bit of an art to it. Okay, but it's mainly a science. Okay, now within business, there are many different subjects. I've just listed a few of them, right? But for entrepreneurs or anybody wanting to start a side hustle, the most important of all the subjects is marketing, okay? Because marketing essentially is the study of how to make something popular. Okay, that's what it is. So obviously that's a very important thing to know if you're trying to sell something, right? How to make something popular. You want it to sell. In order for it to sell, a lot of people have to know about it. A lot of people have to like it. They obviously feel that it's definitely something they should do and it's worth the money, right, for them to buy it. So in order to do that, you learn marketing. Marketing is the scientific study of groups of customers. A group of companies is called an industry, like a group of producers is called an industry. A group of customers or potential customers is called a market. So marketing is the study of groups of customers or potential customers, right? How they think, how you reach them, how you sell to them, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so that's what marketing is. So it's when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's the most important area of business. Okay, now how do you make something popular? Well, you give people what they want. You give people what they need or what they know they need, right? That's what marketing is. Okay, and I find it interesting because, you know, if you look at things that are not technically business, but they're somewhat similar, like politics, like if you are a politician and you want to get elected, right? A lot of the things that they do and a lot of the principles they use are marketing principles, right? Because marketing is, once again, how to make something popular. So if you're trying to get elected and you're trying to get more votes than the other politicians, your competitors, knowing the principles of marketing is pretty damn useful, right? So, okay, so we've established that. And incidentally, once again, shameless plug, if you want to learn marketing and business in general, get that course. That's a very easy way to learn this stuff, and you get the knowledge right from the horse's mouth. From the, in particular, the marketing book was written by someone who is one of the biggest authorities of marketing in the world, and they use his book in Harvard Business School in their MBA program to teach their students. So that's what they're all reading, right? So check it out. Let's go a step further. I know this, I hate these questions, these rhetorical questions, but it's totally true. What is success for you? Okay, like if you're going to start a side hustle or you're going to start a business, what is success? Well, presumably it's two things. It's something that a lot of customers out there like, something that they're into, something that they consider something that they want or need, right? So it's popular. But at the same time, simultaneously, it's also something that you're passionate about. You don't want to just do something to make money that, you find boring and tedious and you have no particular interest in, and you have no specialized in-depth knowledge of, right? That's not exactly success on an individual level. You might make money, but you hate every moment of it, right? It's tedious, it's a slog, right? So presumably, you're going to try and find a thing that meets two requirements. One, it's popular and that people in the general public like it, but also you're passionate about it, okay? So that you enjoy doing it. And presumably, because you're passionate about it, you're more knowledgeable in it. You don't find it tedious, you find it exciting. So even though it's technically work, it doesn't feel like work. You get to engage in, say, your hobby, right? Wouldn't that be good? Okay, so I think that would be a definition of success for a lot of people. I want to do something that I'm passionate about that also makes money, right? So this is helping to frame what idea you pursue. Okay, it should probably meet both those characteristics or those requirements. Okay, so we're talking about how to turn your creative passion into a money-making business. You start with the creative passion and you start with something that presumably will be popular. Now, maybe you know what you're passionate about, but the big challenge is this something that other people would pay for, right? That's the big challenge, okay? Now, how do we answer that question? Well, we learn about customers. That's what we do, okay? If you knew everybody in a particular space, in the world of like a hobby you have or an interest you have, if you knew all the other people that were interested in that same thing, all the other people who had ever spent money in any way on something connected to that interest or that hobby, right? You knew where they were, you knew how they thought, you knew what's important to them, you know what they're looking for, you know what their attitude is. And like I said before, you know what they consider reasonable and what they don't consider reasonable, right? If you knew all that, this would be easy because you know exactly what to offer and you know exactly where to send it. You know exactly how to convince them, right? So this is what you're going to understand. This is the journey you're on. Okay, so it's a journey to understand these customers. And when you study marketing and when you apply it, there's basically three principles or three questions that marketing will help you answer. Okay, number one is there a group of people that are interested in this? You're going to answer that question. Okay, and if there is, specifically, where are they? Okay, how many of them are there? And where are they? Right? The other, and also included into that is like how you can reach them. Okay. The second question that marketing will help you answer is what message would I have to send those people to convince them to do business with me, to buy my thing? Okay, so how would I convince them? Sometimes it's as simple as like stating what you do with a price and a phone number. Like that could be the message. Other times it's a video demonstration of your product. You don't have to say anything, but show them, here, I got this. And within 2 seconds, they're sold. It's like, oh, I need that, right? Okay, so like, here's the thing that I have. And they're instantly hooked. They recognize it. They fall in love with it. They want it. Other times, it's more of like an argument. It's like, here, I got this thing. This is what it does. This is why you need it. This is why it makes sense. This is why it's better for you to do this than to do this other thing you've been doing, right? It could be like a body of text. It could be somebody talking. It could be a picture, right? It could be a sign. It could be a billboard. It could be a poster. It could be an internet ad. It could be an article, right? But I repeat myself. So that's the other thing the marketing will tell you. That's the second part, is what message do you have to send to these potential customers to convince them to do business with you? And then the third question and final question that marketing really solves for you is how to send this message. How do you send it in such a way that it gets to its intended audience? What channel does it go over? Okay, should it be in the form of word of mouth? Should it be an internet ad? Should it be, someone knocks on your door? Should it be a big sign that you drive past every day? Should it be, a t-shirt that you saw your friends wear? Like whatever, right? Okay, so those are the three questions that marketing solves for you. Where's the market? What message should I send? And what channel should it go over? Okay, there's one final thing I want to say about this, and then we will take some questions. And the other part of turning your creative passion into a money-making business, that I can't overstress this, is instead of thinking, how can I pay for something? Okay, instead you think of, how can I not need to pay for something? Is there a way to eliminate the need for that thing rather than how can I pay for it to obtain that thing? Does that make sense? That's been a key staple of my work as an executive, has been that. Like, yes, we could, the conventional way to do this is to do this. Each of those steps requires tons of cash, lots of investment, lots of time. Is there a way to not need one of those steps? Could we, instead of buying or building something, could we rent it, or could we borrow it, or like something like that? Or can we just tweak what we're doing a little bit so it doesn't need that step, right? And then we don't have to worry about paying for it and doing it because we don't need it, right? We're simplifying, but we get the same result. So that's the type of thinking you need in the beginning when you start off, certainly. Okay, and these will help you turn your creative passion into a money-making business. Learn marketing. Understand that you're on a journey to learn more about customers, and you need to validate things. And pick something that is not only something that you're interested in, but also is something that is popular. And you find that out by validating it. If you're interested in something, chances are other people are interested in that thing too, but it may take a slightly different shape or form than what you're envisioning. So that's why we have to validate things. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. There are 26 people here. Thank you for joining me today. Hopefully you found that interesting. Let's go over to questions. So get in the chat. If there's something that you're wondering about or that you're struggling with, get in the chat. Let me know what it is. I will try and help you out if I possibly can. I do this live stream every week at the same time. And I'd actually do 2 live streams on Mondays. This is the first one. The second one is about how to get a job, the employment thing with resumes and job applications and networking and all that. And that happens 2 hours later. So whatever time this started and where you are in the world, 2 hours later, I start the other one. And what I've been trying to get off the ground, by the way, is I'm trying to do collaborative live streams these days. And I'm going to be doing that in some way, shape, or form. I might not be able to do one every week. I would like to. It sort of depends on other people, whether they, what their schedules are. But I believe I'll be doing one later today. It's going live on my other channel, the Company's Expert 2. That's this thing right here, the Company's Expert 2. So check that out. Subscribe to those. You will also want to subscribe to the Company's Expert 3 if you're into the business content like this live stream, because that's where I share a lot of these tips and tricks. Okay, we got some activity going on here. So how do you say this? Gopi Kufu says, "Hi, sir. You're back here. I'm back here. Same like me. Love you, sir. From Ireland. Right on. Well, thank you, Gopi from Ireland. That's very nice of you to say." Crichton is here. Crichton says, "Glad I could catch you today." Well, great. Yeah, I'm glad you're here, Crichton. Let me know if you have questions. If I get some questions in the next couple of minutes, I would love to stay and answer them. Otherwise, I will be signing off in a couple of minutes. Usually we get a ton of questions, so that's what makes these especially fun. But yeah, let me know what you're doing. Let me know what you're struggling with and what you're wondering, and I can speak to that. This live stream, this activity is kind of a throwback. I used to advise a lot of startup founders and small businesses. And I initially started it by doing, just sort of like volunteer stuff. I did stuff with a government program we had where I live, where they try to encourage local entrepreneurship and all this. So they had one-on-one mentoring, and then they had little lectures and things. And so I did both of those, and then that turned into more consulting work. But I liked sort of working with people right at the ground level, it's one or two people just trying to do something. There's a lot of people out there that were really, really bright and really capable, and helping them to sort of get started and stuff was quite fun work, actually. Okay, Creighton says, "How can a creative business make the switch into a small marketing agency?" Okay, so that's kind of a general question. A creative business. So you're doing usually when people use the word creative, they talk about fine arts. So like graphic design, that kind of thing. Is that the context in which you mean that? And then a small marketing agency. Listen, if you know a ton of customers, if you have clients, okay, for your creative business, and you really get to know them and you get to understand what they're doing, not just in their relations with you, but what they're doing in general. A lot of what you're asking will become clear, okay? Because instead of just you doing just one little specific service for them, you can grow and offer a much wider sort of array of services that you can provide into like you said here, like marketing type areas. So it kind of starts with that, and then it can go outward, right? If you've already, the general rule is if you have an existing client base and you're wanting to sort of expand it and offer more and take on more as a business, obviously it's easy or relatively easier to sell those broader services to your existing client base than attract new clients for your broader services within their own right. So that's usually where you start. And the beauty of that is that, because you already have relationships with these people and they know you and they trust you because you've worked together, they'll be more open to sort of divulging more information about what they're trying to do and what they have needs for and this kind of thing. So I would really focus on that, really focus on your existing base, okay? Try and understand what they're trying to do, what their needs are, why they would be interested in one thing, but they may not be interested in something else you could do. Try to understand their reasoning, get them to explain it to you, right? It's almost like doing, market research. It essentially is market research, right? Getting to know these people. So that's the route to do that, okay? And then depending on the information you get, what direction that leads you, then that's where you go, okay? Sometimes in the world of like marketing and all this kind of stuff, it's very competitive. And the biggest challenge is trust, because there's a lot of people that can give you advice, right? But the reason you don't pay them all to give you advice is because you don't really trust them. You don't know who they are. Yeah, sure, they can give you their opinion, but do you trust their opinion? If they advise you to do something, if they advise the customer to do something that's the opposite of what the customer feels is the thing to do, is the customer going to trust the advisor, or they're going to trust their own gut instinct? Right? Most people, they're not going to trust the advisor, even if the advisor is, sort of somewhat up there in their level of trust. They're still going to go with their own gut instinct. I encountered that many years ago. I remember the very first time that happened to me, where I had a client who I advised them not to do something, and then several weeks later or something, they said like, well, yeah, you told me not to do this, and I have to admit I went out and did it, and it created this massive problem for me, so I should have listened to you, And that's when I first sort of really understood, like I understood the concept, but it was really demonstrated to me, value-based pricing, because that mistake that they had made cost this client like the equivalent of like $50,000 or something. It's like, well, my advice was worth, in that instance, was worth more than $50,000 because I saved you from a $50,000 mistake if you had listened to me. So hopefully that makes sense. Crichton. Crichton says, we have done mainly business to consumer with some business to business with our photography and video. We want to move to focusing on B2B clients and their needs. Yeah, like that. Generally, that's where the money is. Start with small business and then work your way up. That's what I can say. Unless someone has some very special relationships with a potential client, start with the smaller businesses, and then it's not about, like, you see, when you're doing B2C, usually it's about like selling, You're not really that interested in hearing what the customer thinks. It's mainly about like, okay, I'm gonna communicate to you. I'm gonna sell you on this, right? So I'm not sure if that's kind of the attitude that you guys are taking, or if you are taking that attitude, you're that aware of it. But start with smaller businesses. They're a bit more approachable. You can relate to them a bit more, and then really make sure you go into listening mode. You want to learn from them. It's not about you telling them that they need you. It's about you understanding their thinking and their situation and you adapting to that. Because if you give them what they need and you have the right attitude, they'll be much more amenable to hiring you. Okay? Even if the big clients, the big businesses have the money to spend, start with the small businesses just to try and get your foot in the door. And it's about building up credibility and building up trust. And you don't do that by coming out of nowhere and saying, I got the solution to all your problems, right? You do it by having a track record of trusted people that they've heard of. And that's what convinces them to go with you. Okay, so that was Crichton. Gopi says, about here, let's say I have a huge passion for doing something I'm not an expert. I love vegan cooking and help my friend in restaurants and try to learn stuff, but I'm a PhD in mechanical engineering. You're a PhD in mechanical engineering? What the hell are you doing in a vegan restaurant? I'm just kidding. That's quite a shift. Not much mechanical engineering in the vegan world, as I understand. But what do I know? I know nothing about it, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut. Okay, let me know some more about that, Gopi. Starting with like if you had a question or something. If I can help you with something. Matsuki says, thank you, Sir Bill. Appreciate your guidance. Do you have a LinkedIn we could add to? No, not really. I'm on LinkedIn, but I don't just connect with like everyone in the world on a LinkedIn account. That's not what I use it for. And I think that it's of limited use for people who do that kind of thing. Like, what's the point of connecting to someone who connects to everyone? It's just, at least for the way I use LinkedIn, that's not really where the value is. Leo Sunshine says, I enjoy creative writing and doing short stories about people overcoming adversity. I wonder how would I be able to monetize that skill? That's an excellent question, Leo. Excellent question. There's an example of a creative thing, okay? Artistic, creative, and you're wondering how to monetize it. Now, look, I'm not an expert in creative writing, okay? Like, I'm just going to admit that right here. But I really get the vibe that there's many, many different ways you could turn that talent and that passion for creative writing into something of value that people would pay for, okay? Now, where do you see creative writing? Okay, one option is, screenplays for movies, I guess, right? I guess you could investigate that. Another thing is, the world of book publishing. You could write short stories, you could write novels, you could write poetry books, you could write, whatever, that get published and they find an audience and people buy them and like them. Okay, now, once again, I'm not an expert on publishing, but there's that world. On the internet, there's a lot of people that are sharing their thoughts. Okay, they in terms of fiction, I guess, like creative writing, I'm assuming we're talking fiction, but maybe not necessarily. Like what used to be journalism, right? That's creative writing to a degree, I think, right? I'm not 100% down on these definitions, but so my point is like internet articles on websites. There's a lot of people. Like, it's an area where I feel, my gut feeling is that there's a lot of content. But only a little bit of it is actually like a gem, and people love the gems, right? Like, look at famous books like Lord of the Rings and stuff, people love them. They absolutely love them. So it's something that if you do it well and you tune yourself into a specific audience, it's something that people will pay a lot of money for, right? Because it really captures their hearts and minds. Okay. So there's many different sort of ways you could go, right? I mean, writing screenplays for comedies, writing scripts for, like what I'm in, like YouTube videos and stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure there's like a ton of different possibilities. So it's a matter of sort of jumping into or dipping your toe into each of these sort of industries and learning a bit about it. Okay. You don't get the answers to these questions by sitting alone in your house or your home by yourself, not connecting to the outside world. You're not going to get these answers by going deep into yourself. That's maybe what you would need to do creative writing. I don't know. But to get these answers, you have to go out. You have to, if they have in your town, they have an event where there's a book reading at a local bookstore where some semi-famous author is doing a book tour, go to that and see if you can talk to the author, see if you could talk to the organizers of the event and just check it out, how it works. Like investigate that community in your city or town or region. And that way you might sort of investigate book publishing, and then over here investigate the world of screenplays and internet articles. Okay, so just you've got a lot of learning to do, and it's a matter of thinking how you can monetize that. I'm sure you can. It's just how to package it up. Okay? I know I've not been very helpful in terms of giving you specific things, but all I can say is jump in to all these different options, and then as you think of other options or you hear of other options, jump into those too and investigate. Connect with the people in it, right? If you don't know how to do an informational interview, that's something that you should learn how to do. In a nutshell, you connect with somebody that's doing the thing you'd like to do, okay? Using tools like LinkedIn, somebody mentioned LinkedIn, and you send a message to that person. You say, hey, I'd love to get your expert opinion on the industry you're in and where it's going and, what your experiences have been in it. Would you be able to spare me, say, 30 minutes? And a lot of people, if you approach them correctly, if you send the right message and, all this, they'll be flattered They won't find you kind of weird or icky. And, it'll be a stroking of their ego that someone is like, wow, I would love to know what you know. Would you be able to teach me? Would you be able to just sit down with me for half an hour and I could just ask you questions about this thing that you do that you know a lot about, right? And a lot of people do that. So if it's people in the same city as you, right? They may say, sure, yeah, come on down. And you send this out to a lot of people. You send it out to 100 people and 10 will say, sure, come on down. Let's talk about it. I run a book publishing agency. Here, let me give you a brief tour and we can talk about it for a few minutes. And this may help, right? Okay, so hopefully that's enough to sort of give you some directions there. That's Leo Sunshine. Crichton says, so far your advice is spot on, sir. Well, thank you. You see, that's the thing about advice, right? Is that when someone gives you advice and you go, that's great advice, without having put it into practice yet, sometimes that can be misleading because it might sound like it has common sense or a certain logic, right? You like that? Just because something has a certain logic doesn't mean that it's valid, right? It can sound logical, but it can be terrible advice. The proof of whether my advice is good or not for you is if you follow it, what results you get. So I'd encourage you to try that. You don't have to try everything I said, but just try a little bit and see if that works for you. And if it does, then maybe consider trying more. And that's how I'd recommend everyone evaluates any advice you get, right? Not just from me, but from anyone else, right? It's that critical thinking cap that you put on. Doesn't matter how it sounds. A lot of people they make a business of telling people kind of something pretty, something nice, sounds altruistic. And the reaction is, that's inspirational. What good advice. But it's crap. Other times, and I've been in this role many times, is where you give people advice that's sometimes a little hard to hear, right? When you say, I know you think this is the answer. I hate to tell you this, but it really isn't. You should consider doing this thing that you really don't want to do. You should really do that. This thing that you think will never work, this thing that you hate doing, you need to do that because only that way will you succeed. And that's when people go, that's terrible advice, right? And they dismiss it out of hand. But yet they've never tried it. And if they had tried it, they'd be laughing, right? That's an interesting thing about this. This is what I've been forced to sort of learn about advising people, is that's kind of how it works. But thank you for your compliment, Crichton. I do appreciate it. It is nice to hear that. Matsuki says, if they don't trust you, even if your service is affordable, it's challenging getting new clients. Yes, that brings up a great point. That's why when somebody says, buy my product because by this logical argument, it will save you money. That's why if people don't know you, they're not convinced by that, right? Because it doesn't matter how logical your argument is. They just don't trust that you can save the money. They don't know you, right? For all they know, you're a criminal. You're completely bent, crooked, right? So it doesn't matter what argument you make or how logical or how attractive it sounds. They're just not going to go for it because they just don't trust. And everyone says oh yeah, I'll save you money. It's not about, whether your sales pitch makes sense or whether they don't understand it or they're not looking for that. It's that they don't trust you, right? So that's the real challenge to overcome. Now, if your trusted family member gave you exactly the same logical argument for the same thing, you might instantly, adopt it, right? But if it comes from a stranger, exact same message, you'd be like, oh, no, absolutely not. I'd never do that, right? It's about trust. So in the consulting business, which is like marketing and kind of a lot of times it falls under that umbrella of like consulting. It's really what it is. You know, I will help you make money kind of thing. Trust me, this is the right thing to do. I will create something for you that you can't do yourself. It's better than what you could do, and that it will make you money. It's really like consulting. And so as a result, it's all about trust, because everybody can create a thing, right? It's not that hard to create a thing, but what's hard is to create a thing that's honestly head and shoulders above all the rest, right? And if you take any particular one of all these people that are offering you their opinion or their services, how do you know it would have worked out better than if you had taken an alternative? You don't. You can't go back, and you can't try all the options at once, right? That's the problem. So it's all based on trust, unfortunately. Leo Sunshine says, thank you. My major concern is that my work would get drowned by all the ChatGPT generated fiction stories that are out there. I will definitely do more research. Thank you. Yes, listen. Here's what I know, okay? Throughout history, as I'm sure you also know, they have come out with all kinds of technical innovations, right? And whenever there's a big leap forward in the technology, usually it takes the form of some type of automation, right? Things are now easier and quicker because of what they've done, this new technology. The printing press was like that, right? You no longer need monks or whatever to copy, letter by letter, to copy books, right? These people would sit in like monasteries and whatever, and they take a year to make one copy of one book, right? And then you got the printing press. Tremendous leap forward, right? Does that mean you don't need people who can write? Of course not. It does mean that their job has changed. Okay, you're not doing the same writing work. You're not copying like that, right? There are obviously times when you would copy, but not quite like that, right? Because now you can just print 1,000 units of a book, right? Instead of just creating one book, you can create 1,000, right? So there's been obviously many of these over the last 2,000 years or whatever it's been. Every single time, everybody always freaks out and thinks like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. No one will ever be able to do this again. Everyone will be out of a job and it'll be dead. And what you learn is that no, every single time there's been a major innovation that has automated something, that has made something easier and taken the laborious work that you do out of it, it's actually led to the industry, in this case, the writing business, it grows, right? So I'm pretty confident that ChatGPT and all that like AI stuff, it's going to be like that because everything has always fit into that mold. And I don't see how these are not bigger. Okay, AI and ChatGPT, it's obviously a big step forward, but it's certainly not the be all end all. I would argue that, say, the internet was like a bigger step forward than, say, AI, at least in its current form. Google was a bigger step forward. You got the internet, you got the web, but nobody can find anything on it unless you know the exact URL. It's pretty pointless. Google made the web useful. It made, all of a sudden you could find what you were looking for. What an idea. I was around for both of those and I saw the full impact of it. And they were bigger than AI is now. Maybe AI will keep going. Who knows? Obviously, it's changing a lot of things in the same way the printing press did or the internet did, but people are freaking out. They're going overboard on the freak out. Everybody always does, because you're not putting it into context. You're not seeing it in context. So yes, ChatGPT can write stories, and it can write articles, and it can write novels, and it can write whatever you want. But I don't know about you. I'm not any kind of technical expert on ChatGPT, but the writing that ChatGPT has done for me has not been creative genius, put it that way. I think that you still need people to generate the original ideas, to come up with new things that are just very compelling. Can ChatGPT help you? Certainly. It's probably easier than ever to write a book now. You could probably write a book in 2 days, with ChatGPT doing most of the heavy lifting. But would it be an amazing book? Would it be a bestseller? I don't think so. Would everyone run out to go buy that book off Amazon in whatever form, digital form, paperback form? Would they do it? No. But are people still buying books, and are you still having bestsellers? Yes. Right? So you've got to look at the element of value, right? You could produce a generic story. Great. But does that really compete with like great authors? No. I'm still looking for a great author. There's a billion books written every year. And I mean, I'm lucky if I could even find one that like is really cool to read. I'm still looking for that. So unless, ChatGPT can solve that problem and produce like a Lord of the Rings every week, I think there's still a need for original human creative writers that are going in new directions that AI hasn't gone. Now, who knows? Who knows what's happening in the future? But I don't believe like, AI will replace people. No, AI is written by people. It's almost like when you watch, the latest movies and they try and write smart characters. Like this character has a PhD. This character is a genius. They're a member of Mensa. But the problem is the script is written by people that are not very bright. So they write this character and they tell you, oh, they've got a PhD, but they act like they didn't even finish high school, right? So I think it's a little bit of that syndrome. Okay, what am I talking about? Anyway, I'm glad you were here to join me for that mindless, rambling trip to nowhere. That's why I do these, and that's why you're here. There's 29 people listening to this crap. Okay, no, thank you. Seriously. Okay, where was I on this? Matsuki, I read that one. If they don't trust you, even if your service is affordable, it's challenging getting new clients. Leo Sunshine, my concern is the ChatGPT. Yep, I will definitely more research. Okay, excellent. Well, that's probably good for today. You guys are awesome. Thank you for staying with me to listen to some of the interesting places I've gone today. If you want to learn business, if you want to learn how to make money, learn business. There's many ways you can learn business. Okay, you can go back to school. You can, do a lot of different things to learn business. I created this course to help people learn business with a lot of bang for the buck. It gives you all the official information that you would learn in an MBA program. You learn it for $100. You do the work yourself. It's flexible. You can do it at the pace you want. You can go to the depth you want. Maybe you just want a sort of cursory introduction to every area of business. If that's what you want, this gives you that. If you want to really go in depth to every area and really take the time to go deep, this gives you that too. Okay, it's entirely self-study. I have several videos that guide you through it. Okay, the learning comes from reading the textbooks, the same textbooks that are the source of information for places like Harvard Business School and their MBA programs and a lot of other places around the world, a lot of Ivy League schools in the States. The books are written by world-renowned experts on each of their respective areas. And what I do is I just deliver that to you. I package it. I provide videos that are a guide. I sort of say, here is what you need to know. And I have read all these books myself, cover to cover. So I know what I'm talking about and I know what I'm recommending. If you are interested and you'd like to learn more, check out some of the links in the description. They give you links to videos that talk about my various courses in depth. So it's fully transparent. You know what you're getting into before you sign up for anything or you pay anything. And that way it makes you know that it's right for you. Okay? So check that out. I will be back in a week with another episode of Side Hustle Ideas. And I will see you guys then. I wish you nothing but the best. And always remember, you're awesome. Take care.